Hello, and welcome to the Think Bamboo podcast, the show where we unpack the personal and professional growth journeys from some of the most interesting minds in marketing and business. And today we have none other than Genna Masterton. Jenna, for those that are unfamiliar with you, would you care to give yourself a little introduction?
Hey Jamie, thanks for having me. I'm Jenna, founder of Canoro. We aim to build technology that allows children and learners to exercise their right to own their own data. I used to be a primary teacher. I'm very passionate about children's rights and want Scotland to be world leading in AI ethical standards.
So, little fun fact is that my wife is also, I mentioned this just for the podcast here, is also a primary school teacher in Scotland. I won't say where, just in case people hound her at work, which is unlikely. But look, that's a tough gig. Primary school teaching is, you get off, I'm sure you've heard all the opinions of, they get all the holidays. What are they worried about? Like complaining about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, this is so hard. The amount of pressure that is put on you and the amount of like, here's your task list. Oh, you're comfortable with that? Or you're severely uncomfortable with that? Here's 20 other things on top of that for what I can see, not much reasoning behind it. You've transitioned from that. You've transitioned from a very hard gig to another pretty hard gig as a founder. Now, what I want to know is maybe I've helped answer the question here, but what was the catalyst and maybe the idea that gave birth to Canoro? What was the
Yeah,
catalyst when you're in your former career as a teacher that wanted to push you into founding Canoro? What was what was that journey like for you?
thank you. Well, luckily I wasn't in teaching for the holidays. And if I ever left teaching because of the workload, then wow, welcome to entrepreneurship.
Right?
Your mind really doesn't switch off, but that was exactly what it was like in teaching because you just care so much. And I think that's the hardest part, really. There was quite a few reasons at the time, but ultimately, when I look back and I speak to colleagues who I was close with at the time, I just had this inner knowing that there was something else I should be doing. And I didn't ever want to feel like I was looking out the window wanting to be somewhere else. Like, I didn't feel like my children in my classroom deserved that. And I had the opportunity to go into management at the time. I actually got offered a principal teacher role around the time that I
Hmm.
resigned from my first full time teaching gig. But yet, entrepreneurship was the chosen path next. I started out with a tutoring company. I worked part time in teaching at the time, but a few years later, another head teacher who could see that there's something else niggling away in her mind, she actually gave me this little bird that said dream big on it. And as she left the door to retirement, she said, Jenna, don't stay here too long. You're made to go to the top and change things from the outside in. I think she maybe just saw my need for standards to rise and more innovation, more change. Um, so that was definitely an impetus. And then in terms of Canoro, it was doing further education at the likes of the Data Lab at Edinburgh University and Tech Scalers Initiative, which is the Scottish
Right?
Government
Yep.
ecosystem wraparound support for individuals, whether they're technical or non-technical, to build startups as a economic dial shifter. And I did a program with TechScaler. And by the time I came out the other side of that, I wanted to be a tech founder. I believed that that was the way to make an impact at scale. So yeah, it's probably the quick way to tell you. There's a lot more detail than that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's so I was part of a group of people that founded Think Bamboo. And with any new business, there is an doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think, but there is an element of fear and danger and risk that
Mm,
comes with it. That some like everyone thinks, oh, you run your own business. Well, this must be awesome. Like, no, it's everything is on you, everything. So, and you sometimes you don't know that until it's happening, and you realize there is no safety net here, or safety net if you've got well, even if investment is just a loan, right? And you got to pay that back. So, and tenfold sometimes. So, for you, you've left. I mean, from the outside, and when people say like, oh, they're working for like a public sector, if they're in a what could be deemed a relatively safe job as teaching, policemen, and all of that, I think that's nonsense. But I can see the
Mhm.
perception of that. But with that, you've again left to go start up Canoro here. What were some of the fears that you had to overcome from leaving teaching and setting up Canoro?
I do remember being really fearful. I'm not now. I guess it's like anything. The more you practice it, the more skillful you become. It doesn't feel dangerous anymore. But I did a postgraduate diploma in coaching, and
Right?
therefore, as part of being able to coach others and ask them questions that elicit values and how they really feel inside and help to navigate towards the future, I was able to get coaching for myself during that time. And you would partner up with others that were training. And my friend Jenny, who was my coachee, and she was my coach at the time, she's not with us anymore. She passed away in the pandemic. But she was on, like, her 3rd business at the time, and I always felt that she could sniff out fear in me, but she saw my
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
potential. So I think that mentorship and guidance that she gave me in the beginning is the reason that I don't feel fearful anymore, and that belief that someone else has in you allows you to begin to believe in yourself. Investing in coaching, the mentorship of others, but I do remember 2 particular books that I was advised to read by a coach. So I've always sort of had a coach in the background, whether it was to do with nutrition or entrepreneurship, whatever it might have been. And it was one called The Big Leap. And yeah, it's just understanding that you've got a quite an exponential growth to go on. But don't let that stop you just because you're not there yet. That was a great book to read.
Mm-hmm.
A. Hendricks that wrote that. And then one called Crossing the Chasm, which is particularly helpful to those like myself who maybe isn't starting with a traditional business model, but is looking to do something innovative and may have to raise
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
investment to be able to fund that first product development, and also may have to change mindsets and culture to actually cross the chasm, for people to understand, like, you're having to build a new vertical or upend a market or
Mm-hmm.
disrupt something. So that book was also very helpful to understand the game that I was playing essentially.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was
That's
that
really interesting about
question?
oh no, I totally answered the question. It's I am a firm believer in coaching and getting advice because and the reason for that is one, I think it helps remove the ego. I think the ego is the downfall of us all. That's
Well, yeah.
people get caught up in themselves and I'm going, no, 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 leave it at the door, and because you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes people like others don't know that they don't know, and you're like, hey, I need someone to let me know, like, what are my blind spots?
Yeah.
Because I don't like you're not, at least in my school where I grew up or anything like that, we weren't taught like, yeah, you had business management, but you didn't get taught, hey, look, this is what this is going to feel like. This is what it's going to be like. See at 2 a.m. and this happens. Like, what are you going to do about that? You're like, I don't know. Oh, by the way, you're also sleep deprived from children. Like, enjoy this as well. There's all these things that are going on. I'm like, okay, I need someone who's been there before me that is a safe pair of hands, is a safe pair of ears as well, and
Yes.
reliable. Who it's not just about venting, but it's giving me the framework, a foundation that can say, hey, look, this is going to guide you. Okay, you're the one to execute it, but you've got way more success from seeing this. And these are the pitfalls. Be wary of that. And going, some of it I thought was some common sense. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's good. But that taught me, okay, you're on the right path. But nine times, like 8 times out of 10, here's the stuff you didn't know. And I know we didn't talk about this before, but it's, I didn't start off with coaches or advisors to begin with, but it was about 6, 7 months in where I realized that, oh, I need this. I think the rest of us need this. Here are the reasons why I think we would really benefit from this, going back to what's our why, what do we want to be, how do we make sure that we stick to that. I'd be interested. I know we didn't talk about this before, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm interested to go, what was your initial reasoning for thinking, okay, yeah, a coach would be really beneficial for me here?
Um, Probably from my time in primary teaching, because my dissertation at university was called Pupil Voice and Assessment Developing the Self Reflective Child. And that
Okay.
work that I did in a nursery school proved that when you ask the right questions and allowed learners to decide on their next steps in learning, decide or know from the feedback they were receiving and reflections they were gaining what they were good at, what they enjoyed, that they were more confident, they were more motivated. And when I graduated with that research behind me, I would still continue sort of action research in every classroom I had, and enforced, whether my head teacher knew I was doing it at the time or not, within the
Yeah.
timetable. Now our on personal development planning, I would call it, and they all had like little jotters or little books where they were keeping records of their achievements. And I would have one-to-one time with everyone every week in the front of the classroom, and it was silent. And I just tried to create that introspection, particularly on transition to secondary school. So then when I realised that asking questions is not just about being reflective, it's actually a skill and it's a profession. You can be qualified as a coach and you can get really high standards from the International Coaching Federation. Um, so yeah, it opened up a, a window to me because I connected that reflection set and the question of what coaching's all about. And then it was the impact it had on me as an individual, because I was almost paralyzed at times by fear, and
Mm,
that fear of failure. So I knew if it made such a difference to me, then by goodness, it's going to make a difference to the life of others. And if only we raise children this way in every classroom in Scotland, that sort of thing.
mhm, mm. Well, I think this actually naturally comes on to one of the questions that we did talk about beforehand, but I really like that. That self-awareness, I think, is so critical as a for humanity, to be honest. But I think as anyone who's going to be a founder or a leader in any sense,
Hmm.
that self-awareness is critical because you can learn how you can change a room with and knowing about yourself. Like, okay, this is I could go down this hole here, or this is how I'm going to elevate myself. So we've spoken a lot about the teacher part of your journey here and the around your personal and professional growth. And I'd like to transition le- a little bit over to that part of Canoro. But when you were a teacher and you had that identity, you may know I know who I am as Jenna the teacher. When you became Jenna the founder and the face of Canoro, what part of teaching or that identity that you had before, what was that you maybe had to unlearn, to let go in order to grow as the next stage in your life?
Yeah. Well, I think the pedagogy behind teaching is changing, particularly in the early years. But I remember going down to London for a coaching session, and one of my other coaching buddies and friend, Beth, we were asked to think of words that we had quite a fixed mindset on, that if you played around with it and this through this very active participatory game, could you think about the word differently? So it was like, think of a word that you have a block or two, or doesn't help you. And probably around that time when people knew that I was stepping into entrepreneurship, and so many people were like, oh, you're leaving teaching. Like, and it was always met with such hazardness. Um, the word risk was what I focused on that day in this session. And by the time I came to the end of the session, it was about not being risk averse, but being risk aware. And
Mhm,
they'll
mhm.
operate positively in and around risk. So long as you're aware of it, it doesn't need to stop you. And I see that in lots of place settings in the early years. And I mean, it's night and day since I qualified as a teacher when you see some of these outdoor settings that are just incredible, and how they approach risk. So, and of course, you cannot survive in entrepreneurship unless you have an appetite for risk, because you have to make moves without fully knowing what lies ahead. And you can be reflective and you can seek counsel, but if you don't make a decision, you stagnate. So you must keep with the best information that you have at the time, take a step forward. Yes, new information will come, and you may in hindsight feel, oh, I wish I'd done that and I wish I did this, but that's how you learn. So that act of doing is part of entrepreneurship. Um, and then I would say like a quality that I always had, that I haven't had to re-navigate, I've had to remember about myself, is like as a teacher, you're so observational. You iterate in the moment,
Mhm.
you respond on a word or a noise. Your eyes are just constantly scanning for information to elevate a lesson or get someone re-engaged or to mitigate behavior that could escalate. And now it probably took far too long to realize that that skill, that it was innately mine, because teaching was such a vocation for me. My grandma was a head teacher. Other members of my family were in teaching. It's just kind of sort of in my veins, I think. And I had my own little Miss Honey experience, like the Matilda Roald Dahl book when I was in primary three, and that was me. I wanted to be a teacher forever, and my dreams came true. So I am really proud that that happened. But I don't think I appreciated that intuitive nature of my teaching career that allowed me to lead in the classroom belonged in entrepreneurship as well. I think I tried to tone that down, turn it off. It wasn't based on logic or facts
Right.
or
Okay.
numbers or really concrete stuff. It was just me responding to my environment. Whereas I'm really trying to own that. And I would say this year is the first year I've really walked into the year owning that. And there's so much more to do to unlock that capacity within myself.
I'm absolutely going to put you on the spot now because you're just it's the obvious question. I'd be amiss if I wasn't to bat it back at you. What what are the actions that you've taken to unlock that?
Hmm.
Like what are those steps that you've done that? Because I love that you thought actually I've had to bury something and actually bring that right back up because like just before while you're thinking about that, I'm going to give you some thinking time. Is I had to do the exact same thing,
Okay.
which was like absolutely, um where going into like agency land and some of the client parts and I am not really built for an office setting. I'm just not. Like it's a or at least the office settings I would all like I was aware that whilst I'm a high functioning introvert, it was a I found that oh man, these like it's a bit for want of a better word, like a bit stuffy. And I was like, why aren't people just being themselves? Like, why is it always in these rigid parameters? And, I'm speaking to this guy, I've known him for 4 years and I feel like I'm talking to a robot. And it's just like, this is the input, this is the, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, surely you've got family, surely you've got friends, interests, hobbies, all these things. Why are we burying them all? We are like, do we really believe that we are just a number here on this, or a hamster on this wheel to make the dude that we see on the org chart once a year to make him rich? Is that what we're here to do? Because that feels rubbish. And that was like, but I buried those thoughts and that desire to be a bit more, I say, a bit more human. I
Mm.
buried that right down to just do no, just do your job. That
Yeah.
is what I'm seeing around me. So I will be like a chameleon, and I'll just say, this is my surroundings. This is what I need to do. So that's what I'm going to be. Didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Over the course of the years, that's where I like you get jaded, you get a bit disillusioned, and go like, "What am I doing?" I'm questioning my life's why. Like, what am I doing here? This is like, what's happening? I felt like as soon as I got that back up and tried to be like, okay, I just need to bring a little bit more of my values and what I believe in, and not care so much or put less weight on the thought of not conforming to whatever this belief of what professionalism is. Suddenly it life got a lot better and the career environment's got a lot better as well. A lesson there about a bit of authenticity and to just be yourself and to bring that there. But I love that you realized about acknowledged that about yourself and thought, actually, I can bring that up. That's something that was always in me, and it
Yeah.
can be a benefit. It can actually like change my life. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of thinking
Oh,
time.
Lord. I mean, made me quite emotional thinking of individuals that guided me back to myself or reflected that mirror. Say, just be yourself. Like, just say the words you were going to say because I understand you. Just because they don't, like, that's part of your job as a founder to educate and also to find the rooms where they're willing to listen with 2 ears.
Hmm.
I've just, over time in my entrepreneurial journey, held my own and been more deliberate and discerning about who I do spend time with and what rooms I do want to be in, and learning every day that entrepreneurship has a lot of additional challenges, but it comes with perks. And one of them should be that you get to be in your own lane and do it your way. Um, and yeah, maybe just some other real models, role models of people who have helped to make me realize that I don't need to change depending on what room or environment I'm in. I just need to be myself. I read a book from Tara Swart, who's a neuroscientist. I would say neuroscience is what's unlocked this capacity for intuition within me,
Okay.
believing in like serendipity and signs and the universe. But this book called The Signs is just incredible. And then some of my favorite kind of worldwide entrepreneurs, like other females that have been super successful, they talk about intuition being something that's held in your gut, and it
Hmm.
is based
Hmm.
on data. It's based on years worth of information that's deep inner wisdom, and you mustn't ignore it.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
your gut knows. So yeah, it's yeah, others' wisdom that have guided me back to myself for sure.
That is so. I love that you brought the word intuition. There was a company I worked for before Think Bamboo, and I'm saying out loud, I've actually forgotten the yin to the yang on this of what intuition and then the opposite was, but essentially it was like the logic and the gut and
Yeah.
what your balance is about how you how you react to things is how quickly you go to either your intuition or or the logic there, whether actually am I in danger, am I okay, I'm reading an email here, what does the logic say? What does your heart say? All the rest of that there, and then finding hopefully a balance. And you find some people are very heavy in the intuition, very heavy on the logic there, and shut off the soul. And I'm like, okay, I found that really interesting. So this here is that we've had a lot of the teacher part here. I want to fully transition into Jenna, Canoro founder. I was looking at your website, and what
Mm.
I find really fascinating is
Ooh.
wonderful. I mean, I'm going to leave you to talk about the tool and all the rest of that there and everything that there. That's not for me. But the part that I was like, oh, this is cool, is the non-technical founder and what you're trying to build as the non-technical founder. And I thought that's good because you're going to remove all the jargon. You're just going to talk in layman's terms and go, it's supposed to be like this. And I find that, so I've spoken that to a lot of SaaS founders, all the rest of that there. And sometimes I go, can you just tell me what it is? And like, yeah, I love the tech behind it. Fantastic. What's the benefit? Why should we exist? What problems are we actually solving? Not just a list of lovely, lovely features in there. So what I wanted to ask here is with your description of yourself as a non-technical founder for Canoro, how did you, probably alongside TechScaler, how did you manage to bring that vision to life with what is quite a technical tool in I think education is a quite hard industry to understand because there are so many layers. I mean, you've used words like pedagogy today already, and some people might not know pedagogy, andragogy, all the rest of that, and they'll go, "What are these even words? What are you talking about?" You've got to understand all of that, and you've got to try and simplify something so complex, and you're trying to do that for children, for learners, and for educators. So, twofold. Here's an opportunity to talk about Canoro and what it is, what it does, Love for you to tell me that. And then how did you bring that vision to life as someone who describes himself as non-technical?
Yeah, sure. I think that was the challenge. What I wanted to do was so complex, and until I learned about data infrastructure and AI native technology, it wasn't accessible to me. I did go to different meetups within Glasgow and Edinburgh, like Edinburgh Tech Meetup or builders or founders meetup. I mean, there's so many different communities to be part of and so many people to learn from. And then I came across a tool called Lovable, which is accessible to anyone, whether they're non-technical or technical. And I was able to, through natural language, so just using words that I speak, prompt engineer, so not code, I didn't know how to code, prompt engineer an initial prototype of what I envisioned Canoro to be, which in my mind does go back to my dissertation days. And how can as the world change and as children become citizens of the world and new credentials are formed or industry is moving faster than our education system is changing. So how do we link that up? And how do we iterate in real time? How do we personalize learning with AI? I mean, there's so many questions around it. Never mind barriers to accessibility for education for neurodivergent learners,
Mhm.
or the fact that in some countries and councils, even in Scotland, attendance levels in schools are dire. So something is just not matching up. So I wanted to put information about who you are as a learner in your hands. And this is where I came across a term called data sovereignty, which basically means that it belongs to you. It's yours and it's yours to own, and you should have it for life. Age and stage appropriately with the right guardrails, particularly in using AI. But if we could do it safe and securely, and a space could be created where the context about that learner just builds and builds over time, and it doesn't leak because a child changes school, and it doesn't disappear because a new teacher comes, and it doesn't go into an evaporation stages because they move from primary to secondary school. It belongs to the child and moves with them. So that comes from really tough pain of watching that lack of accountability in the system affect children the most. And even in my
Yep.
personal situation, children that I love and adore, seeing that lack of accountability and that inability to advocate for yourself, or parents or families be able to advocate for their own children or young people. So yeah, if we could change the game on who owns the data and who has access to the data and how the data travels, and also what happens if there is data we are not obtaining about our children, particularly in the early years, which is what Kinoro's name comes from. Um, if we held on to that, if we obtained it, would we understand new things about learners that we haven't been discovering that are actually crucial to their success in adulthood or transitioning into adulthood as a young adult? So that's how Canoro took off.
That's cool. What does Canoro mean?
Kin for kindergarten, so early years. Kin for
Mhm.
family, believing that family
Yep.
should be involved in the learner's journey, and parents shouldn't be locked out of the education system. And oro is gold in Japanese, Spanish, and or is gold in Gaelic. So it's like there is golden insights that must not get lost about learners, particularly from the early years, and it should travel with them. So kin oro. And I always wanted a 2 or 3 syllable word for my startup name. And supposedly, if you found your startup with the letter K, everybody smiles as they say it. So Kinoro.
That's a great. That's. I mean, all the stuff about Japan and gold and children's amazing, but smiling when you say it, that's brilliant. Love it. That's the thing I'm going to remember now. Okay, think Bambu. No, it doesn't really smell. Boo, buh, buh, a lot of buh sounds. That's brilliant. I love that, and that's such a good story. And I could keep coming back, like how important that is, and obviously confidentiality, all the rest of that from wife and children. But for those who are parents and for those who have gone through that journey of moving a child from one school to another, or moving from, kindergarten, you said there, from like a nursery or playgroup up to primary school. And if some bit of key information gets lost to another teacher for whatever reason, something catastrophic could well happen, or they've not got the right learning resource. Oh, sorry. I absolutely buy into this. Like, absolutely. And it's not from, I have experience, like, not experienced myself, but I have had others that have
Mm,
gone through something that, and I go, how did that happen? Like, how did that happen? And I'm not blaming schools or anything. Like, look, everyone's had instances at work where it's like that. How did that communication not come down? It's fallen through. And you have built something, or built,
tell
building, growing
me.
something that can address that so clearly. And it's so important for those who have experienced it. Go, yep, get it, understand the benefit. Let's get this going. The amount of
Oh. Yeah, we need more of
the
those people because there's been lots of objections as well. Doing anything innovative that disrupts the current system, particularly in Scotland's education system, it
yes.
can really slow you down. So luckily this challenge is global and I will build it if it's the last thing I do.
Well, you possibly still have connections in teaching and education where you can't be as blunt, but I don't. So I can say absolutely, you should have that. Yes, the amount of barriers, roadblocks, but I mean, I was talking about the red tape and things where I just go, why are we like this?
Yeah,
Just because it's been that way, that is the killer of all innovation. I just get rid of that thought, get rid of the people that think like that. And I know that sounds harsh, but you've got an absolutely amazing idea here that
thank you.
can change children's lives and parents'
Yeah.
lives.
And the beauty of it is in Scotland is when it is the right time, we will be world leading with this type of technology because children's rights are now enshrined in Scottish law. So if any adult wants to get in the way of that, you know, okay, let's go there. Because
Yeah,
that's for me
that's
all this is all about children's rights for me.
it's all individual. I mean, well, right now we live in a world where data is the currency, whether people want to admit it or not. Um,
Yeah.
why do we think, oh, why have I got that text message? Why am I getting that email? Because everybody's selling your data for all of that there, and there needs to be an element of what is mine. And with something like as like personal and informing their learning development, and you talk on your website about different contexts and the environments that they go into, to go, if someone's going to that wrong environment, could set them back, like, be completely detrimental to them for years. And I don't want to get too into this because I was reading through and I was like, I totally get this. Why? Like, it's kind of mental that that's not there already. But I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit here and pat you on the back for too long. What I want to do now is think about, you are part of quite a few of the tech communities, and within Scotland particularly. And I wanted to ask about how much of an impact have those communities had on the build of Canoro, your own professional or personal development there. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to London a few times, but I really haven't left Scotland to do this. I get my inspiration from all over. And my team are now between three different time zones. And that is all
All
came
right.
from networking within the communities that exist around our universities because of people that maybe came to university in Edinburgh but now live in Australia and their
Mm-hmm.
counterparts live in Cape Town. And people, come to live in Scotland because it's a great country, but they might be native Estonian. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of how my story, or story to build in Canoro has came from finding other people's expertise, particularly because I am non-technical. I needed to find like a designer, a developer, a product strategist, and more crucially, which does kind of link onto the last questions, I don't want to build Canoro without the highest governance of AI ethical standards within the UK,
Yep.
within the EU, within the US, wherever it may go. And luckily, again, Scotland is world leading with some of the organisations we have, particularly in our capital city, that belongs to everyone in Scotland. And Yeah, you can find the expertise you need to get your startup off the ground because, like you said, once you've got that self-awareness, you have to really own what you're good at, but you have to quickly discover what you're not and fill those
Hmm.
voids, fill those gaps.
So there's I don't know if you're familiar with the Scottish AI Alliance. I
Yes.
saw them at yeah, yeah. I saw them at a conference. I'm thinking about maybe a month and a half ago now, and it kind of blew me away because I didn't know that they existed, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
why don't I know that they exist?
Mm,
And straight up afterwards, they did their talk, and I was going, guys, you put up in the room, hey, has anybody heard of us before? And like maybe three people put up their hands, and we're talking a room of like 200 folk here. And I've gone like, and I was one of them. I just didn't know who you were. And I was like, okay, cool. Part like, forgotten the woman's name. I want to say her name was Mary Dawn O'Hara. Mary Dawn O'Hara. I think so. I may be pronouncing the surname incorrectly. Her talk was amazing, and came up afterwards and said, like, look, that was brilliant. I'm concerned why I haven't heard. Like, I'm not saying like, why haven't I heard of you? But like, um, why not? And they were like, oh, this is a bit of a problem that we've got is that we've just not been in front of the right people here. But what we can do is help businesses be safe, like everything you've just said there. Because everyone's like, hey, have you got any AI safeguarding on your business? Everyone looked around going, why would I have to safeguard my business? And they're like, oh, right, okay. Here's why. This is the dangers you could go up against. And I was sitting at a table with a financial services company who I won't say the name, I won't go anything here, but during that talk, saw them just get on the phone and say, we've got to stop what we're doing right now. We're not okay to be doing this. We have not got,
mm,
yeah, all this stuff. And I was just sitting there going, oh, this is hilarious. But I'm learning so much from them right now that think Bambu needs to get on this straight away.
sure.
Made me feel slightly better. There was a whole room of people that were also just as ignorant. But yeah, of building what you're doing with the greatest compliance around that and the security around AI is absolutely the way. Um, I'm aware of your time, and I don't want to keep you too long on this. So, but I do want to ask you. Like, I've got some really good questions here. I think you're going to give some excellent answers. So, you mentioned here about again as like part of my job before we do these sessions is scour people's LinkedIn and try and get. Sometimes I say, "Hey, you've said this once." And they have. I'm like, "Well, you said about a year and a half ago." That's anything like that, and I'm like, I'm not holding them to it. It's just it's a springboard to other thoughts. And you mentioned here about power of partnerships in your growth here, and maybe it goes back to what you were just saying there about collaborating with others. But what is there's going to be other founders that think about this, right? That are maybe at a similar stage as you, and or thinking, how do I get to the next level? But how have you? What's been your strategy of getting the correct collaborators that are aligned with your vision, your values, and your beliefs, in order to build Canoro to or fulfill your vision of Canoro? How are you finding these collaborators, and how are you ensuring that they fit the mold of Canoro?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to kiss a few frogs. You might spend a considerable amount of time with certain individuals and then realize, or they realize that it's just not the right fit, particularly if they've had experience of working in corporates or working in scale ups or working in the public sector or charities. Like the startup landscape is completely different. You need people with high energy that really know what their own value systems are and they're flexible, particularly now because my team is based across different time zones. You know, I meet on Sunday mornings to start our week off. Um, People that will meet late at night, take calls, answer emails at midnight. That's sometimes what it's like. I don't set that expectation, but the energy is just there for it because people are so invested in reaching the milestones within a timely energy. And yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess I probably have done a lot of work on like what my own value system is and whether it's built on trust or joy. There's that serendipity part that I spoke about. Sometimes that just guides you and people that are fun and make you laugh. I've definitely let my values guide me, and I've held out for the energy that I think is fit for a startup, because there is an element of
Hmm.
fitness to come, mentally fit, physically fit, with being up to be part of a startup journey. And also you've got that mind, the neuroplasticity to pivot and change. And particularly now with AI native technology, it's not necessarily those that have a particular skill set at the start that say, oh wait, but that's what I do, or that's my role, or give me that task, I own that. It's a collaborative, co-designing, creative
Yeah.
experience that all should have a voice in. So you need people that are changing with the external world and the new developments in technology. And you quite quickly sniff out people, no reflections, nothing personal, but their mindset's maybe just not there with that. And you need to quickly put it to the side and find the next person who is ready to ride this wave of change. Or you may as
Yeah.
well not do it.
So I'm with you 100% on that. There is an advisor of ours that when I said about the coaching, getting the right people in, like this is where I'm saying, like one of the things that's resonated with me is you can't afford passengers right now.
No.
You've got to have people that are on this journey with you, and yeah, you got to give them the bang. They've got to have the alignment on values and everything like that. And when you don't have someone like that on your team, it's better to sounds really abrupt, but they gotta go. They gotta go really, really quickly and they take it.
Yeah. And
Bring the
yeah,
people into the circle.
yeah, sorry.
Sorry, and you go,
Yeah, I was just going to agree that they don't there's you don't need to kind of beg them to stay, like let them go. Like you ask
mhm,
people that were part of Skyscanner in the early days, like Scotland's only unicorn positive
yeah,
story at exit, and they'll tell you that the reason they got to where they were in the beginning is just because they believed they could. So if you don't have people around you who believe what you're doing, believe that it's possible, believe that you can, because that's sometimes the only fuel you've got in the tank.
yeah. Oh, and it's some days it's enough. You might not think it's enough, but sometimes it's enough, and you got to keep that going there. And it's coasting. I suppose it's different parts. It's startup world. You've got to have people there that are willing to that energy. I love that you brought that up. That mentally fit energy where you've got to be able again, self-awareness, be acutely aware of, I'm going to have to pivot here. Something you're going to have to be agile. If you are used to that scale up enterprise world where you go in, you can clock in and it's pretty much the same thing and you go out and like nothing against that. Some days I long for that, but there's other days where like most of the time I don't. But you've got to get rid of like passengers are not going to help you on a startup journey at all. And it's lovely that you build those relationships built on the foundations of your values. I think that's so critical.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I'd love to have this question here about because we talk about the theme here is about personal and professional growth,
yeah.
and we've talked about the communities that have helped you, how you suss out collaboration, what Canoro is in your journey there from teacher and the foundation of that that's led into this. Um, I find that, and from I say I find I've spoken with others here that have been kind enough to share stories of where things haven't gone quite right, and those are the greatest learnings that they've been able to take forward. And I I've got plenty in the canon there. I'm not shy about sharing them or going like, oh, that did not work, or I really messed up here. This is what I need to do better, and take that learning there forward. And again, ego is the killer of all innovation. You've just got to put that ego to the side. Can you or would you be happy to share, like, you don't have to go into a full story or give, like, the granular details of it,
Yeah.
that something maybe didn't quite go to plan, but what was the lesson you took from that to elevate your either personal or professional growth?
Yeah, I guess it's well, one is that not everyone that starts with you is going to finish with you in that personal or professional capacity, and you can't control that other people aren't kind of on the boat. You got to leave them at the next island or leave them on the beach and let them go and like make their own boat to do their own thing, and that is the
Yeah, yeah.
life of just letting go and letting others um decide what they want to do, and you decide what you want to do. So yeah, I wish there'd been times in the past, because I've had quite a few different iterations of what I've done to get to Canoro,
Mhm.
that I would have let go more swiftly. Um I mean, I don't know if it's like a failure, but there's also plenty of rejections I've had. I wish I could look back now and say, each of those, classic, like a rejection is a redirection, like it,
Mhm, mhm.
but even more powerful than that. It helps you to evolve faster. So, like, ask for all the rejections, because you won't be that next version of yourself without them. You won't think more boldly, more ambitious, more globally, more competitively, more innovatively, particularly in the business world, without it. So I wish I'd embraced all of that with a lot more resilience originally. Like, I can
Mhm, mhm.
pictures of myself standing in the rain crying against walls because I got a no. It's just like, come on. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I relish the objection. I relish the fact that you don't believe yet. Obviously, I have to be careful how much energy I spend trying to see whether I can change that into a yes, or just move on to
Mhm.
the next yes. But I
Yeah, yeah.
also wish that I'd realised that some people will say one word or one line to you um, that you should need to hold on to forever. Like, I remember my aunt saying to me, Jenna, entrepreneurs are like the most richest natural resource of our economy. And unfortunately, I know this is, things are changing more positively around entrepreneurship and how it's viewed in Scotland and how failure's viewed, and um,
Mhm, mhm.
they help us all prosper economically. But maybe at the time there was a feeling like nobody was really taking a punt. Now I'm really lucky to walk into this year and have an angel investor that's taken a punt on Canoro, because that's what's finally got us off the ground. And um, I just, I look back now and that was like golden what was said to me, and I genuinely now, and the most beautiful way, and like not loads of ego, that I do feel like a rich resource in Scotland, and that I do value my entrepreneurship. But there was times where you wanted to give up and you didn't see your value in yourself, and you were constantly looking for other people to tell you your value, and it's taken to now to believe in me or Canoro first before others do, and that's a game changer.
I can completely resonate and relate to that. To share a story on that was the part about the value and the value that some people can put onto you was, and this has been a journey for I say Think Bamboo for me and the other founders here, is I'm talking about the sensitive topic of pricing and
Mm,
that there, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, and I and like this all comes in with, there's so much that goes into pricing against your positioning, competitors, value, all the rest of that there, where you want to be, and the feedback that we had about, oh, I can't actually remember when we got it. It must have been about 18 months or just under 2 years in. Round about that time, we like, fairly getting it's not your first few months, that we were undercharging and that we were being deemed as you're not a serious player.
okay.
And I was like, what? Since when? And I was like, this is news to me about not being a serious player, or the challenge there. And they said, look, this is what your other competitors are doing there. And like, and people are not wanting to bring you into the conversation here because they think it's not that you're affordable, it's that you're cheap. And with cheap comes lack of quality and everything there. And I was like, that's not true. Like, look who we've got here. This is great. And they said, they're not seeing that there. And I was like, right, okay, so do we need to, like, okay, we're not getting to the rooms of the people that I want to be in with because we're being deemed too cheap. But also on the other side, I'm being haggled for like every penny here from certain others, uh, telling me that my value is overinflated.
Mm.
And I was thinking, oh, okay, I need to be better at qualifying. And I was like, what's the lesson out of this? Because I was saying, do I need to change for pricing? The answer was yes. Like, quite frankly, I had two very established people going, yeah, you do. And own it. This isn't like, take your day to go, oh no, am I doing like, and then, join the big boys. And I was like, right, okay, that's it. Cool. We'll pay what worth and all the rest of that there. And the ones that are haggling there, qualify as quickly as you can so that you're not in those conversations, because if they're not willing to give you your value there, and that you're upset because someone said that, oh no, we're not willing, you're too expensive. And I was thinking, we're really not. Like, I would say not, we're really not, but when you look at others in the market here, we're we're just not. Like, I don't either think you've done your research there, or you think that you're getting like a, sorry to put something there, is like a freelancer. It's like, we're not that. And that lesson there for me was, okay, the qualification was the big one there. Since going through that journey, the lesson for me was, here are my 6 qualifying questions. I can now know within one email or 15-20 minutes with somewhere before I go, we're not for you.
Mm.
We're just not for you. And then that's it. No time wasted. Cool. I move on to the next thing. And or they go, or you're absolutely, we are the right ones for you. And here's what I need to convince, or not convince you, but it'll be obvious from the conversation that we are a good fit. When before we didn't have that.
Awesome.
And it was like, but we had to go through that.
Yeah.
Rather, it's like, it was rubbish. It was really rubbish. I'm not going to try and play up. I was just like, oh, my feelings are hurt here. But
You know your
that was something that
value
didn't
now,
go well.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, the value's there. But it was the just when you said there about where things weren't going right. It's like, why are we getting, like, okay, the rejections, they hurt. But I have to go, why are we being rejected? And I'm like, oh well, we're being rejected, one, because someone thinks we're cheap. I was like, oh, ouch. But like, in the derogatory term, I was like, that's not good. That's not a good thing, guys. It's not like, oh, we're affordable, good. Like, no, that's not good at all. At least the perception. Jenna, I ask everybody these questions, and I would love to hear it from you. And
Okay.
that is, knowing everything that you know now, or where you're at in your journey from the start of time till now. And that is, go back to the first day, or maybe you, I don't know what your first job, maybe your first job was a teacher, straight out of that, which, if it was,
Nope.
amazing, good work. No, okay, cool. Right, so first day, first job, you've graduated uni, or whatever, wherever it is, you've got your first day in professional life. What is the advice that, or guidance, if any, that you would give to baby Jenna?
Mm. I think now more than ever, and if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you'll like this word, but it's all about
I love Taylor Swift, by the way.
oh, nice.
89 is genuinely one of the best pop albums ever written, and I will challenge anybody who comes at me to say that that is not the case.
Oh,
Continue.
I mean, I never got to see her live, but the Disney version of the Eras tour, wow. Anyway,
Mm.
yeah, it's all eras, baby. Like, allow yourself to be lived in chapters and eras, and let them end gracefully, and let them go, as we've spoken about already. And in this one precious life of yours, you don't need to just be one thing. You can be many things, and experiment and evolve and allow yourself to do different things. And I have let go of my teaching career. I had me shot of being freelance and doing multiple jobs at one point, which I thought was great. Oh, on a Monday I do this, and on Tuesday I do that. And it's like, whoa, who even am I anymore? And I've tried
Yeah.
a bit of social enterprise stuff in the third, fourth sector, however you want to call that. But it wasn't for me in the end. But it was so worthwhile at the time, because that those values that I gained allow me to bring impact into the type of entity I have now. And I don't know what the future looks like for Canoro. I want it to be a legacy for my own children and their children, and that intergenerational wisdom that can be captured in these contexts. But I want to have other eras. Yeah, that's what
Mhm,
the advice
mhm.
I give is, see how many different lives you can have in one life. And also, I remember someone at Strathclyde University, that was like an incubator I was part of, that I went back to as an alumni, to start my entrepreneurial journey, which I would definitely recommend to anyone who has graduated to go back to the university if you have a business idea. And someone called Vicky there said to me, Jenna, you want to be the most interesting person in the retirement home. So make sure you've got loads of stories
Mm,
to tell. So I like that.
that's awesome. Yeah. You've said so many things there that I love. Like it's all eras. Live as many lives as you can, and I. So again, I again I really resonate with that. As like I mentioned before that the like my first career was an actor, and it was like hunky dory for a little bit, and then when I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore, and it was like what I'd wanted to like. This was my dream job. I'd like it's what I'd always wanted to be. I'd put all my eggs in this basket, and then when the reality came, I was like, oh, this doesn't fit.
Mm,
Like it turns out it doesn't fit me, and I was like, oh no, that's not like I love the act of it, but the rest of it, I was like, this doesn't sustain. Like this could be very detrimental going forward, and letting that go, and being who am I without this, and that you say like that era, but it took a long time to get comfortable with not being that person, and suddenly when you go, oh yeah, that's it. It's so freeing, and then it gives you that a almost the allowance to go, oh, who else can I be? Like, what else can I do here? I'm not confined to that one part. Um, so Jenna, I say to our guests here that it takes a village to bring someone up to like the success where they are, and obviously you are doing fantastic, and hopefully that you can tell I'm a fan of what you're building, and I fully believe in it. Um, this is an opportunity here to give kudos and thanks to people that have helped you on your journey there, whether that's friends, families, colleagues, whoever that may be. Um, as a thank you to getting you where you are in your journey today. And the floor is yours to give that kudos.
yeah. I definitely want to thank someone called Katie because if it wasn't for Katie and the support that she had from an institution in Scotland, because she was further along in her journey than me, who gave me the opportunity to work for her for a week essentially and go to
Mm,
London and attend a global conference in the education technology space. And if it wasn't for Katie and that opportunity, that came, by the way, when my phones were on airplane mode and she was trying so hard to reach me to be like, Jenna, will you come to London with me? She eventually got me. I was having like some sort of digital detox. And I met this community called the Edufuturists that that is ran by two chaps called Ben and Steve. And I just thought, where have you lot been all my life? Because again, the mindset shift of disruption being positive. Wow, it's a positive thing. It's positive to disrupt things. You can be an edufuturist by positively disrupting. And then honestly just felt like I'd found my tribe. And now I've been in their company maybe
nice.
3 or 4 times now. So yeah, the Edufutures community who also came to Glasgow, came to Scotland over the border for the first time ever this year. They had an event at the Everyman Cinema in Glasgow, which was just awesome. And I'm so excited for what that community is going to do in the UK to bring all nations together as we reimagine what education looks like. And then I'd also like to thank my angel investor, Emar, who was a mentor of mine for 3 years. And she's now an exited founder. She offered to invest in Canoro before I was ready to take the money. And I just
Mhm,
thought,
mhm.
sure, foundationally, there's a lot to learn with the type of path you're choosing and raising investment and the journey you want to go on. And sought advice from multiple lawyers, got the right term sheet, went back to her. Always make sure that you don't have emails in your junk mail, by the way. Just letting you all know, or else you can sit and think about things that were already there to be answered. But yeah, we got that term sheet over the line at the end of the year and sort of money in Canoro's business bank account at the start of January. And that is the sliding door moment of saying yes
Yeah.
to that at the right time. So huge thanks to Emar. And I think that is the thing. Other nations or places in the world like San Francisco, a lot of the innovation with like PayPal and Skype and Facebook started because entrepreneurs that became exited from their companies reinvested in new innovation, and that's what's going to take in Scotland to um, do things that nobody's ever imagined before. And then we need
I
the
love that.
institution and the government and everyone to get on board with how we actually get that embedded into society and export it to other markets.
Well, Emar is hopefully going to help you do that tenfold.
And
Well,
yeah,
well,
certainly.
Jenna, thank.
Sorry, I was going to say, not only is she giving me the money, I speak to her all the time. She's awesome.
Well, see, that's so. It's not something I was going to plan on bringing up there, but that's one of the things I was speaking to other businesses that I've got investing and all the rest of that there. I'm saying, how often are you talking to them? Like, how aligned are you? Like, hopefully it's not just, right, there's the money, I'll come back and see you in a month. Hopefully you've made something. And I go, oh, that's a very transactional,
Yeah.
like, oh, that's going to get, no, that's not how I would roll or how I would want to roll. I think you have got to talk to them and be like, okay, this is what's going on here. Like, if there's any barriers, can they help you remove them? Like, not just
Sure.
for more money, but how can we make this go? Because if this works, you're both going to benefit. So
Exactly. And
I love that you said, like, I talk to you every day.
yeah, and I totally take my hats off to people that have that high agency and conviction to just not need as much touch point with their investors, but I want value add investors, and that's something I'm going to be very sure about going forward.
Awesome. Well, talking about going forward, Jenna, I would love to know what is next for you and where can people find you? Where can people find Canoro?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had an amazingly powerful session with someone who was Glasgow based and now lives in London around like that kind of go to market strategy for Canoro. And he
Mm-hmm.
said a phrase about being a B2B celebrity and that I just have no choice but to, get on camera, speak on podcasts, and get across all the socials. So I do want to be more social on social. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, but I hope the 2026 allows more people to find us, not just on that platform, because we're not going to reach everyone there. We
Yep.
are gearing up to raise a bigger round of investment, and we're hoping to partner with a very innovative school that is already global across the world and believes in what Canoro's doing. So yeah, getting all the ducks in a row to make that a reality would just be the best next thing that could ever happen in Canoro's journey. And I will cry if if and when, well, not if and when that happens. With
When it
happiness,
happens, there you
like
go.
like
Yep.
happiness, because it's that values thing. I just know that they completely align with my values, and I've sat with it and worked it out and sought counsel on it, and then you've just got to find a way to make it make sense and to say yes to it and go for it, because it's one of those ones, if you don't, you'll regret it forever. No regrets. No regrets so far. So yeah, just got to make that
Well,
ask.
fingers crossed for you,
Thank you.
because it's a for that type of thing to happen, it can be life changing. It's exciting. It's exciting, and that's the type of thing where I can kind of tell that's the drive that gets you up in the morning and going, I'm making a difference here, and it's also for the kids, right? Sorry, as much as I'm like, well done, that'd be amazing for you, Jenna. The amount of people that's going to help, this should be happening, and hopefully you're the person to do it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of a strong why, because it gets you out of bed in the morning. And I do ask myself that question often, like, who might you meet today or this week or at this conference or tomorrow who could change your life? I always try to live like that because I think it was Sir Tim Smith who was the founder of um, the Eden Project in Cornwall, where I went on a
Hmm.
leadership academy once.
Right? Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
that meeting random people are dancing lessons from heaven. And having lost some very special people, I always just feel that when random people show up in my life that could change everything, it's a dancing lesson from heaven from somebody watching up above. So I'm quite spiritual that way, and that keeps me positive. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. I'm also quite a spiritual person. I don't
Okay.
sound it or look it, but yeah, I believe sometimes the stars align. There's things that happen that are greater than us, and
Oh yeah,
sometimes, yeah,
awesome.
I there's got to be. I am not as or I think my mindset goes to, I'm not as arrogant to think that we are all that exists, and there must be bigger, something bigger. Without getting too philosophical, I've not got that train of thought right now. But Jenna, thank you so much for your time. You have been so generous with it, and thank you for listening, for watching the Think Bamboo podcast. Once again, I am truly grateful for you all for giving that time.
Awesome. Thanks.
So Jenna, thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.